This is Naoki Yoshida.
This is Fern Hall.
And you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm FusionX, and today we have a full house today. We have a full house. We've got Bryn, we've got Aldino, we've got Zenidra, and today we're joined by Mr. Happy. What's going on, dude?
Nothing. My cat decided he really needed my attention about 5 minutes ago. So
Aloha likes to do that. They're like, oh, camera, great. Let me just get in here and.
Well, take care of my pet Rothgar.
Welcome back to the state.
Aloha might be on the prowl for more coaster wrappers. I think that would be. Got any more wrappers?
He's gonna steal it. No, the wrappers are gone, but he wants the coasters. Give me this.
Wow.
More cats in Final Fantasy XIV with Happy.
Yeah, pretty much.
So today we're going to talk about day 2 of FanFest. Just kind of breeze over some of the announcements. There wasn't a whole lot, but we've got some fun bits from the Q&A with Banri Oda. We've got some announcements from the end of the live letter, and then we're going to talk to Haps about his interview with Naoki Yoshida and some other thoughts from his trip to Japan. We also got some emails and tweets we're going to go over too. So lots of stuff to go over. So the big ones first that everybody knows already. I mean, I think we talked about this last week or the week before, or maybe the week before. I forget when they announced it. We've probably covered it. Data center expansion is coming up for EU. That's going to be April 2nd. So you're probably listening to this show right now as it's happening.
This week, yeah.
Cool. And then NA is April 23rd, and then obviously on 23rd as well is when we're going to get World Visit. So,
yes, so excited.
Get your treasure maps ready.
Maps.
Maybe some more maps. Yeah.
I don't need any more guild, but I want to do maps.
Maps are fun. Maps are great. They're like, it's one of the best pieces of content, I think, that I like. That just I can always enjoy it. It just seems like, because you never know what's going to happen.
So many people running maps like on every server. It's going to be crazy.
Oh yeah.
We're going to crash the World Visit system, and that's how we're testing it. You know, it's like.
That's true. And, you know, that's probably an important little bullet point here. Like, the reason they're implementing this before the expansion is to make sure this is like a test, essentially. Yes, it's going live, but also like hopefully it doesn't break anything. So
you want to go to the first?
If something does happen, yeah. The first is actually its own server. Everybody goes to the same.
Don't even say it.
Dun.
We've got the date for the Final Fantasy 15 collaboration, A Nocturne for Heroes. Get it? Nocturne? Get it?
No,
guys?
I don't get it. Why don't you explain it to me?
This is a limited event. It'll start on April 16th until May 27th. Yoshida says not to be too worried because the items from this event aren't going to be too hard to get, so don't worry about it being limited. And again, if you guys haven't been paying attention, this comes with the 4-person regalia mount, Noctis hair, Noctis costume, maybe some more stuff. Like we had the Kenny Crow minion that was teased in the Final Fantasy 15 picture frame, like, which is the weirdest thing to like pull things off of. But there might be more, maybe some weapons or something. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming up soon. Q&A with lore creator and main scenario writer Banri Oda. We're not going to do the whole Q&A. He answered 20 questions, and it sounds like he actually answered before they did the stage stuff. Like they had like 60 or something that they had actually like prepped answers for.
Yeah.
So the biggest disappointment is they don't talk about the Ascian stuff with Eureka and how the Ascian apparently was dead, but then not. That was the only question that I really wanted to see answered, but. We did have some interesting stuff that came out of this. They talked about how they do like 2 or 3 day retreats to come up with expansion stories. And so, I mean, a lot of companies do this. Like, this isn't like shocking news, but it's not something that we necessarily knew that they did for Square Enix. Like, you know, Marvel did, like, this is how Marvel came up with Civil War. Like, they were on a retreat and they're like, hey, let's do this.
I love the dev panel when they're going and talking the pictures. I know it's not the QA, but it's like it's really interesting insight. So when you kind of can get a better picture, it's like, it'd be kind of fun to be a fly on the wall at that hotel.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we can talk a little bit about that dev panel too once we're done with this live letter, because there were a couple interesting things in there about the Crystarium specifically. So Oda says the hotels aren't really nice. It's just a building with a whiteboard. There's hardly any light in the room. Maybe that's what inspired us for Shadowbringers.
Sounds like my hotel in Japan, the first one at least.
It's really dark in here. We should make an expansion about it. When they did the retreat for Stormblood, Oda-san said that they actually figured out details up to patch 4.2. So it wasn't just the expansion; they even got a little further out. And then he mentions that they do weekly scenario meetings on, to keep everybody updated with what's going on. Currently, Yoshida is checking dungeons right now for 5.0, and next month he says he's going to be doing checks on MSQ and side quests. So I mean, they only got a few more months left, so
those are important
to go over the big stuff. Yeah. This one I love too. Oda-san joked about when like Yoshida like is coming to like ask them a question or to check on their progress. Because of the boots that Yoshida wears, they can hear him coming, and so sometimes he doesn't wear the boots, and so they like are surprised when he shows up. So Oda-san requests that Yoshida always wears the boots so that they can prepare themselves.
I got to comment on that later.
Yeah, and some of this stuff too. And we handpicked I think about half of the questions from your interview that we want to go over. There's some interesting stuff. But we'll get to those here in just a little bit. Oda-san, when asked about like where he draws his inspiration from, and this is always something that I think a lot of people, especially the lore people in the community and the players and stuff, have been interested in, like where do you get all this stuff from? He often uses, he says, the Legends of Charlemagne by Thomas Bulfinch. He uses that constantly to go back to. Like a lot of weapon names come from that book. And I mean, he reads a lot of books. I can remember, I think, was it maybe Koji that said something like he had to like move or like reinforce a floor in his house because he just had so many books. Like he just he reads a lot of books.
That's insane.
He's got an insane library.
And then, probably not surprising to anybody, no, there is not a lore reason for the duty finder and how it works, or how the chocobos come so quick when you call them. Though he suggested maybe that they're always hiding behind a tree.
I believe it.
I would love to see somebody do a piece of artwork now that's just like somebody like walking in the shroud, and then like behind every single tree is a different mount, just kind of like peeking out, like, just in case if he needs us.
It's like
Is it my turn?
It's like the Lalafell in Hildebrand quest line.
Oh yeah,
For trees.
Yep. So that's just a snippet from the stuff with Oda-san. They answered 20 questions on the stream. We have that all up in our live letter summary, so make sure to check that out if you didn't get a chance to watch it. You can't watch it on VOD anymore because of things.
It's gone.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that's because of the Dad of Light TV spot.
That is exactly what it is. Yeah. But we've got the summary. Summary's up, so we're good. We got all the big stuff. Other announcements: Xenos is coming out for Dissidia, April 11th for PS4 and PC. And I think it was a little earlier for, I can't remember.
It's already out. It's already out in the arcade.
For the arcade, yeah. Not that it matters. Not that we have arcades here. What's an arcade?
It was playable at the fan fest.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a bunch of people hop in that like a real long after.
They announced it. When they announced it, you just saw like from watching it on the stream, there are people like moving in this wave. It's like, I guess this is that's where they're going. That or they all drank a lot of water beforehand. But I was like,
the bathrooms are in the other direction.
Yeah, there it is, confirmed.
Did you get a chance?
Cool.
Did you get a chance to play with Dissidia at all?
Try. I saw that line. I was like,
yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can yeah. So for those of you guys that are playing Dissidia still for some reason, that's April 11th for PS4 and PC. Look, I have been trying to give this a chance, right? I have logged in multiple times since free edition launched. It's horrible every time. Nobody's playing it. The connections are garbage, and it's just like I want it to not be bad, right? Like I would love to get in.
I've been playing it with friends, and
okay.
Very few times have we had bad connections, and
That's
because
so
I'm playing
strange.
with friends, it's actually been pretty fun.
All my
I think
lobbies
playing
are
with
always
friends
red
usually
connections.
elevates any quality of a game.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So hopefully
I can go shoot craps with friends, and we're gonna have a better time than when I lose all my money.
Right. So I mean,
you can
they've
blame
had a
them,
lot of
too.
issues with cheating and stuff. So hopefully they can get that figured out, because it would be awesome to like play Xenos and not lag, and that'd be awesome. So
I bought a whole one
there you go.
character. Ultimacia.
I was about to say I know which one it is.
Nice. They also announced the Final Fantasy XIV arrangement album Journeys is coming out. That'll be June 21st. It's going to have 18 songs with bonus tracks. That obviously, because it's an arrangement album, we'll have stuff from the Primals, we'll have stuff from Keiko, and Susan Calloway is also going to be on this. So probably like Oblivion is my guess. And of course, it'll come with a bonus code for 2 orchestrion rolls. And then lastly, they announced the Dad of Light movie, which is super awesome. That's going to be out in Japan on June 21st. No word yet if that's coming over to NA or EU. I would assume at some point, probably, since Netflix. The show was on Netflix. Yeah. But we don't really have any like solid like yes no on that. So keep an eye out for that. I'm sure it'll come up at some point here.
Yeah.
So next up, there's a couple interviews that came out from Tokyo Fan Fest. This week we're going to be talking about Happy's with Yoshida. Next week we're going to talk about another one that Marco translated for us over from Dengeki. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. We'll talk about that next week. But for today, man, how was this interview? I mean, you've interviewed Yoshida-san a few times before, right?
I think the last time was at E3, around the time Ultimate came out.
Right. So how was this, like, going in and like sitting down like at HQ? Like, that's got to be a weird experience.
Everyone seems to have this grand idea of what my visit to HQ was
like. Yeah.
So there's actually, that building actually has very strict rules. Almost nothing inside, even the lobby, you're allowed to take pictures of.
Oh wow.
And that's especially true on the Square Enix offices. So I was brought to the 13th floor, not the 18th, which is where all their meeting rooms and their cafeterias, and that's it. So that's all I got to see of the office, and a very nice guard at the front. That's all I got to see. So it's just, we sat in meeting rooms. We had a few of us in one meeting room, and then when it was our turn, we went over to him in another meeting room, and they had a little banner up for us, just for professionals' sake, and that's it. I mean, he's a fun guy to interview. I wish that we didn't need a translator, because I see interviews and when he's like being interviewed by Japanese media outlets, and it seems like they're able to do a lot more with it because there's that extra time. But I'm always grateful for any time I can get.
And that was one of the cool things that I liked about your interview too, is there was a little bit of back and forth. You don't always get that with Yoshida, especially with an interpreter. And so that was really cool to see. So we have there were, I think, 8 questions total. 8 or 9 from your interview.
8, and the 9th one was me thanking them.
Yeah. So we picked out we've got a few here that we wanted to pick out, just because they're either hot topics or they're really, like, I was reading this interview and I'm like going to my own interview that like I've been prepping, and I'm like, okay, well, he asked that. Like, can't ask that now. Can't ask that.
You and I have done that before, even with
it's so helpful when that happens.
Oh yeah, no,
it's like,
great.
Yeah, like, all these outlets are like, okay, let's ask them the same 5 questions. No, we have like sync up fully.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that's so important, I think. And I think the community realizes too, is when you have an interview with Mr. Happy, or we do an interview from Gamer Escape, or Reddit does an interview, you're going to like get like solid questions, and not like the why do you still charge?
Don't go back to what I think you're going to go back to right
now. We've thoroughly beaten that horse to death.
Yeah. So the first one I wanted to bring up, you did ask about Viera and Hrothgar, as everybody did. I mean, that was the big
that's one of those ones. If you don't ask, you're wrong to not.
Why didn't you ask about this? You were right there.
And here's the thing, right? For me, like, yes, you asked about it, but then you came up with a follow-up, because everybody that's talking about this, right? There's like the people that don't care. There's the people that are like super like livid, and then there's like the ones holding out for a little bit of hope. Like, well, they could add them later.
They're gonna add it on the day of the patch, like the expansion.
It wouldn't be harder just to add the other ones later, right? And that was what your follow-up was. So I really appreciate that you asked that, because not a lot of people did, and that's what everybody is. I don't want to I'm not trying to like prep this in a way to like kill the hope of like all these people that are like, well, maybe. No,
I don't think it killed the hope. I think essentially it helped calm the storm, because like one of the things that happened, like you could kind of see visibly in the community at the time is there were a lot of people generally upset and theorizing as to why this happened.
Yeah, why?
Mr. Happy's interview comes out, and then all of a sudden it was like okay, well, that makes sense because it does. And then to have him explain it in that way, it actually, I think, helped the community just like say, oh, and then remember at its core, Yoshi P wants to build the game that we want to play. And it's maybe it's not today, but maybe, like it could happen in the next expansion or whatever. My hope is that why not make it tied into the lore of our actions bring about, that they can always, that's what I think 1.0 to 2.0 has so much more meaning for me because we took part in it. It's ingrained in it. And like, imagine if you want a male Vieira. Well, the reason why you can't have them is lore, but then we did something and that changes it. I don't know. That's just where I come from.
We were hanging out with all the female Vieira out in Yulmore, and now there's more male Vieira.
Y'all ever like watch Futurama?
Yeah, a little
bit.
You
freed them from the snoo. It's just like, okay, like if there's only like 1 out of 400 male, like I don't know what logistically we're doing here, but anyway.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of bigger media outlets they'll ask about it, right? Because they know it's a thing, but they don't know enough about it. So after that question, it's like any other outlet would be like, all right, fine. But instead, you asked about the follow-up for the genders and maybe adding them in future expansions. So what Yoshida said is they haven't made a decision on that, and we can't say for sure because they need to optimize their workflow for the existing races and now the new ones as well. After that, perhaps we do the other gender, but we don't know right now. They did consider male Vieira instead of adding an extra race, but we tried to take player feedback on adding a more beast-like race as well. As the in addition to the strong desire to get the Vieira in there, we did expect strong feedback on the gender lock. It was a tough decision, but we decided to do our best to meet both the player feedback and our development team's vision. It will be costly to add a new race or genders, so I won't say no, but I would not like to set expectations high. We haven't had time to look at all the feedback since this is our first day back at the office after the Fan Fest. What has the general feedback been like from NA based on your experience? Were they upset about no male Vieira, no female Hrothgar, or both? And that's awesome. Like, I love that he's asking. Like, so he's like, so what have you been hearing? Like, that's that kind of back and forth. It's rare to have usually in these kind of sit downs. And so they said, they're putting all the feedback together, and depending on it, they may consider an official statement on the forums. So. We'll see what happens with that. Yeah.
I'd like to add that he generally asks me questions like that. Soken did the same thing when he was president of the interview at E3, because I said, what kind of songs do you maybe think of adding to the Primals roster?
Soken does that. Yeah.
And he said, what song would you like to hear the most? To which I answered Byakko, and then he shared what song he wanted to work on the most. So I feel like with them, I don't know if it's just because they know how much I interact with the community because I don't see it with other interviewers as much. He doesn't ask them questions back as often, so maybe it's just he's kind of perceiving what kind of media he's speaking to.
Sure, and the fact that he's talked to you before, it's not X outlet sends a different person every E3 to talk to him. It's he's seen us before, and I think I've mentioned before too, like at E3, when we'll have our interview time with him, he'll be out for a smoke break and he'll come in and we'll wave and be like, hey, like we're up next, and he'll just be like, like, because he knows us, right? And so I think that's to have that level of interaction with people from the community. I think that's awesome. So yeah, we'll see what happens if we get any kind of official statement or not. This one was interesting too. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Dancer being a ranged DPS instead of a healer. And so you asked about that instead of a healer, and he goes, "Why were people expecting a healer?" he's like, I have no idea like why this is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to 11 now to explain to people what it was in 11, because I feel like it is the Final Fantasy 11 players that probably set the expectation more so than anyone else. When it's not a healer in 11, I think it can heal.
It's a weird thing. Like, I mean, I personally, for me, I was expecting healer ever since that teaser for Stormblood where we see Lys in the Alamegan gown. I was like, Dancer, yay! And then like a week later, everyone's like, it's probably Monk, and I'm like,
I said that 5 minutes later.
I don't want it to be a monk. And so now we have a ranged DPS danger, which is weird. But yeah, it was interesting for him to talk about how they wanted to kind of balance out. There's only 2 ranged DPS. It makes sense, right? And
makes perfect sense.
Of course, the confusion for me though, then you get into the talk about the tanks and how they want 4 tanks so they can better balance MT and OT, but at the same time, they never really said that they necessarily want to do that kind of distinction. So it's like they went ahead and pushed out Gunbreaker as a tank without really being sure what they were gonna do, which seems a little weird, but at this point it is what it is. So I mean, we're gonna have all these job adjustments anyway for the expansion. So even if you're somebody that's like, played all the healers, and you're kind of like, you're gonna get something new across the board for all the jobs anyway. So everything's gonna feel fresh. And if they do like a really big rework of these jobs, they're gonna feel brand new. So
you'll get a new one eventually anyway if you stick around.
I mean, they're kind of running into. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I kind of look at the entirety of 14, and I kind of recognize, as much as A Realm Reborn was essentially a launch. We have technically gotten 2 new healers since the game came out. Scholar and Summoner were new to 2.0.
Yep.
Astra was an expansion later. They then took an expansion to try and balance it, realized what they did didn't work, and now have to do it again. It leads to a 6-year gap, ultimately, which is what sucks to say out loud. But numerically speaking, it made a lot of sense. I just thought it would be a healer because I thought we were getting a healer.
Right.
I didn't think Answer needed to be a healer. I just gotta do a tank.
And I think there's that feeling too, especially coming out of Stormblood, where we had 2 DPS. It's like, okay, well now what about the other 2 roles? So
there's always that complaint of, the Q times, blah blah blah. Well, if you get 1 tank and 1 DPS this time, no Q times. If you get 1 healer and 1 DPS next time, no Q times.
We got trust.
And we got trust.
Those aren't gonna work.
That's the hardest part, because I keep thinking about that. I'm like, man, the queues are gonna be so messed up, but we don't need to sit on them because we have trusts. So.
And the queues aren't even messed up with two DPS.
It didn't even take that
Stormblood.
Especially not if you have friends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, make do a party finder, like make a friend, and then it's like you never have to worry about it again. One of the things that I would like to kind of say about it is because of the expectation of healer, because it just we're making these assumptions based off of like a pattern that we technically kind of assume, right? The other complaint that typically we've also leveraged or critique about the game is it's somewhat samey. Like it's like, it's kind of predictable.
Exactly.
But this whole thing, like the first Fan Fest, like we're all together in Vegas, and it's like, we know that dungeons, like another shock, and then it completely the presentation took a shift and it felt different. And so from these presentations, they've all felt different. And the only I guess critique when you balance it out, like with the frustration that people felt in light of Tokyo, is that we elevated showmanship because they could have easily told us in Paris that it was female. It's like and maybe some people would not have believed it or whatever. But in terms of the excitement for Hrothgar, they didn't put it to bed in February. They let expectation build and excitement build, and that's where we saw a little bit of that.
At that same time, though, they also kind of kicked themselves in their own ass by doing that because, and they did, and this is something I've been saying since Paris. It's what about Mil Vieira? Well, we still have Tokyo Fan Fest. It's like, okay.
Well, that's where showmanship comes.
Here's the thing, though. Mil Vieira isn't really like we'll hold this back because it's a whole separate announcement. Like, I get it hasn't really been like a big thing before, but that's not really its own announcement. Yeah. And by not saying this, you're just like, you're getting people hyped up to just like knock them back down. Yeah. So,
but that's what I'm saying. They erred because it said in their minds, people are going to be excited about the Lion. And then you also couple this with the Leeds, which I think finally we're all past that now. Like that's done.
Yeah.
Because that's unfair to them, the developers, because essentially it's unfair. Anyway, we got more. I don't want to be pissed off today.
If you guys want our real like first reaction gut takes on these, go listen to the last week's episode with Sly, and we said some things. So go back and check that.
You got the angriest you've ever gotten. He said "dick" on the podcast.
I did.
Wow.
Let's not repeat that.
How dare you? Andy?
I know, right?
I was not here, but that's fine because I don't care. I don't,
Well,
care.
It's funny. I can't remember if it was Sly or Zanidra. We're just kind of like, like I don't know if I care. I'm like, okay, so you're all do you know this week.
I mean, I'm just super excited about how they're gonna make Dancer work.
Yes,
that's what I want.
I'm really.
That was my thing. Like, so much of the stuff lately has been kind of disappointing. Let's be honest.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But freaking Dancer is keeping me afloat. It is the life vest that I'm like clinging to.
See, I'm interested to see from the balance. I'm sorry, Charles. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're going to say the same thing probably. I said I'm just waiting for the job adjustments to see how everything falls into place.
So like when I played Bard Machinist, like I was like I love what they did with Bard, and I was and it's like I'm not saying if you like Machinist that's great. Like I'm not saying that you have to, but I just was like, like it just was like okay.
I want to like Machinist.
I do too, but I
like that Heaven's
Dancer.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, and it's like obviously, like I always say, like people are like, we're getting 2 new jobs. Like, guys, we're getting 18. Let's just be real. Like, we're getting 18 new jobs. You've heard of the other ones.
No, you don't count Blue Mage in there. You counted Blue Mage in there.
Oh, I count Blue Mage. Blue Mage is effing amazing. I have a great love it. I wear the blue shirt. This used to be blue.
I bought a mask, okay?
I did. Yep.
Listen, you know how little it counted? When he listed the number of each role, he said 3 casters.
Yeah, he did say 3.
True, very true. But it's like, but okay, so fine, 17 new jobs, but it's okay. But the balance with Dancer being that, I'm like, okay, well, does this help them set up a strength and a weakness kind of like system within each one? Because that essentially is the value. And with TP going away, like, well, obviously tactician and things, like, okay, what are we doing there? So there's so many things that it's like, I can't wait to see how just those 3 alone play themselves out, because
it's gonna be weird, because you don't want Dancer to just be a dancing bard. You don't want Machinist to be just a bard with a gun. Well, you know what I mean. Like, you have to like do something to make them stand out a little bit. So
I don't want Dancer to be all proc DPS.
Sure.
Yeah. That's what I
right.
What I want to see is that just like with the minions when they hang out by each other, I want to see a bard and a dancer's idle animations, like
they'll expand the perform feature for dancing.
There you go.
Oh, bard plays the music, and dancer dances.
Then it slides into a little bit of risqueness, but whatever.
Well, we didn't even talk about the new pole minion that's going to come out. It just sits there.
It's the dancer's pole.
It just comes. It's like the beginning of Iron Man, right? They're on the plane. He just pushes a button. The pole just like comes out of the floor. It's like that. It's just a minion that does that. You don't actually interact with it, but you can dance around it.
So many.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, this is gonna get weird. All
right. And we'll actually we'll come back to Blue Mage here in a minute as well. That's the last question I wanted to bring up, because that was a good one too. The release date for the 50 collaboration.
It's my turn.
What happened? Oh, Dancer.
Oh my God.
She was trying to talk for a while.
I'm sorry. It's almost like there's 5 people in here trying to talk about the same.
No, that's what I just said. Hey. Just
raise your hand. Be like, I have a question.
Now I've like overhyped it too. Like, I'm gonna say something significant. In 1.0, the way Bard played was basically you had a song that was on a timer. You went over to the group of people that needed the song. You gave it to them. So not everybody got that song, and I really enjoyed that. It's kind of like Corsair from 11, and I hope that's how Dancer plays.
I mean, and it would make sense for them dancing in and out of melee to range to this stack to that stack. I mean, it would be really cool.
I think one of the issues, though, you run into that a little bit. I mean, if you look at like the range of your
abilities,
I don't play Machinist enough anymore. You have your TP song, your MP song, but the range on those is ridiculous right now, and both Machinist and Bard can use that.
Yeah, it would have to be a much smaller. It would probably make mechanics more difficult, but
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see how they differentiate the different range classes.
I always found that particular aspect of support jobs more fun though. Like,
and cool. I think that's another part of the problem too, is these aren't necessarily support jobs. They're range DPS. They're DPS. They're not like,
I mean,
well, a healer's a DPS and a tank is a DPS. Like,
but you know what I mean? Like, they're not.
They're fair.
If you were to actually say, okay, these range DPS, it's not a DPS, it's a support. There's a lot.
This is a potatoes French fries argument.
At the end of the day, they're DPS, right? So they're gonna have support things tacked on, not full support.
It's where you get the balance of utility versus like pure raw, because that either I am helping everybody else and thus raising the team's total DPS, or I'm here because I'm a part of that equation and you want to help me, and that's where it'd be kind of neat to see and have that broken out. Like, oh, I helped raise, and so you did 60% more. So people will mathematically figure it out. Like, oh, you want to bring a dancer, for this type of prog, or you want, a bard for this, and we'll have to see what how machinist fits in the whole.
There's so many things that they could change that'll just completely upset everything that we know.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that we'll see is it slashing? Because that's my first one.
Getting rid of all those.
Yeah, are we still gonna have those buffs?
I think those things are going out the window. Yeah, because that's like when they changes so many things.
When they didn't introduce like a hammer tank or something like that to help kind of like pair with monk, it's like you kind of like say, then like you're like they either take it out or introduce a way that
and I think I brought this up too. Keep the debuff stuff in, but make sure every class can debuff their own weapon type.
I mean, I also did call Gunbreaker slashing type.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So that's kind of like, do you mean that? Do you mean that?
Yeah.
That's true.
It's sad. I hope not. I want that stuff gone.
Yeah, I agree.
It's 100%. A piercing type.
I mean, we already have so many other windows and so many things that we could add complexity to. Like, we don't need to stupid slashing, piercing, blunt, kind of magic, but whatever.
We don't need protect either. We still have that.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully not for much longer.
Yeah. All right, so we're good now on Dancer.
No. I don't want to say about Dancer, but I liked what he said at the end of that question in particular, where he said that maybe they need to change the way that they present information at FanFest, presenting, hey, we'll be announcing another job at the next FanFest. It'll be this role.
Yeah,
we're not going to tell you the job yet, but we'll tell you the role.
And I think that would build so much hype anyway. Like, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And then essentially the people who are excited about their role aren't walking away going like, what? As opposed to like, oh, that's interesting that we, and that's actually a really good point, Mr. Epic.
Well, and I think part of it too is, not to say that people aren't conveying things that maybe they should or shouldn't, but like, the fact that he was like, kind of like, why were people expecting a healer? I'm like, we've been expecting a healer ever since you announced Gunbreaker. Like, you haven't gotten this feedback, but at the same time, he's not going to hear like everything, but it's like that weird mix of like, you don't know.
The question seems to more be, why did they think Dancer would be a healer? Because he saw everyone. He acknowledged months ago everyone was predicting Dancer,
right?
So, it's not predicting for a number of reasons,
right?
Yeah,
sure.
Jumping on the bandwagon of the leak.
Well,
call that like it is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't wrong.
No.
At all.
All right. So next question.
Even then.
Yeah. Next question was talking about why the 15 collaboration is timed and how the team decides which ones are limited and which ones are permanent. And I thought this was an interesting question because, like, remember when they introduced like the Garo stuff? They're like, we don't have an end date for it, but it'll be a while. It's not going anywhere. Like, and so Yoshida says this is decided based on the type of content that they're making for the event itself. For example, Garo was simple structure-wise. We just integrated it into PvP. For Monster Hunter, the content can be a little more challenging, so players may need more time to clear it. And then for the 15 collaboration, it's catered to an easier difficulty, so it doesn't need to be permanent. And he says, luckily with limited time events, they can always turn it back on if they want to, so we don't consider how long.
Okay, let me just be clear about that last statement. They will never turn it back on. It'll be in the log station in a year. So I'm just
or they maybe turn it on in a year.
The Lightning one was once for Japan release, once for NA release, and once for PS4 players who never got to play it.
Right. Yeah. So
let's be honest, that won't happen this time. They're not going to turn it back on for the PS5 players one day.
Well, I mean, they turned like Yokai back on, right? So maybe they'll rerun it, right? Like in a year.
Yeah.
Then it'll be.
I like the concept of rerunning, and even like we've got enough of them that it's like they don't have to even make it every year, and they could end up. You could kind of get some excitement behind it, like every 2 years, the fact is, business wise, it makes more sense just to toss the items and have people pay cash for them.
Well, I think yeah, I mean, you know, and they talk too about like the type of content and stuff being how it dictates, you know, limited time and stuff. Well, lightning stuff, and it looks like 15 stuff, that's gonna have, at least it looks like it has open world fates, so they're not gonna want those running all the time, because that's just weird, right? Like, it's gonna confuse players that are coming into the game for the first time. It's like, why are those soldier dudes from 15 like chilling over here? This is, I don't, what? Okay,
I can't see them seeing that as an issue.
No,
I mean, it's a little immersion breaking. I mean, like the Dragon Quest one for me was probably the most immersion breaking, because Dragon Quest visually is insanely different. But this one's pretty. I think the Deathclaw enemy is cool, though. I want to keep him.
Oh, sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
The soldiers and the other thing, no, because that's confusing, because it doesn't look like any of the other magic.
Sure.
Deathclaw mob, I want that. I want to keep that one.
Looks like it fits, yeah. I mean, you know, robots and things. Yeah, we got them.
Yeah. And then the last question that I wanted to highlight is about Blue Mage. You asked him what the general feedback has been for Blue Mage and the concept of limited jobs. Has feedback led the team to strive to make changes towards their approach on how to implement this kind of content? This is something I think a lot of people have been wondering for when did Blue Mage come out? Since then, like back in 4.5. Everyone's like
a week after 4.5. When was 4.5? January?
Yeah, so January like the 8th, and so then it was the 15th that the Blue Mage dropped. So it was a week later after the patch, you know, which was, I thought that was like kind of smart, because it allowed people to kind of do the patch content and not, you know, like you know, like, okay, now
this was like another one of those like questions that I've been wanting to ask. So like as I'm like going down and reading and I see this one, I'm like, thank you. Like Yoshida says for the Blue Mage, it's still only available at entry level, so it's quite easy to level, and only basic content for it is available. They are going to eventually increase the level cap for it and release new content for it. When we increase the cap, we will have some more content, some of which is much more hardcore. This will be sometime after Shadowbringers, and we want to see how players respond to this new content. Until we reach that point, we don't want to talk much more about limited jobs, because we need to see player feedback after more Blue Mage content is available. So for
the record, I had fun playing Blue Mage. It's just I'm done with it.
Correct.
There's nothing else to do with it, and so like you do this, and then what's interesting is the carnival, where every week they can say like, they kind of switched it up a bit, so there is a little variety, but obviously it's very limited.
For more, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's not a job, it's content, and I think that because of that, once you're done with it, you're done with it. You can't continue to do roulettes with it. You can't raid on it. It just sits there waiting for whatever is coming next for it. So
I don't want to call them out, but they said there would be new Blue Mage stuff every patch. Where is it?
No, they didn't say every patch.
No.
Really?
No, they didn't say.
Okay.
They said they said they had planned the timing for new Blue Mage on the first patch after the expansion. That they said.
Yes. Yeah. That's, I'm like, I remember them saying that in the next expansion, every patch, or at least the first patch, there's going to be new stuff. Because people were speculating that each patch would be like leveling them, you know, like, oh.
Yeah, no.
Now you can get to 7.
I remember talking about that and thinking that there was one patch left until the expansion, which would bring them up to 60 with everything else.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that was and if they bring it up to 60, and I hope if they do, they let it into the Palace of the Dead, or, you know, it's like there are some things that it's like that would be really interesting to take on, like individually, especially now with World Visit. Like I felt like Blue Mage would have, like, and World Visit can go really nice together, because it is that, you know, kind of, you can't open world content instance perspective, but the I'm interested to see. Like I hope if 60 comes, Palace of the Dead, and they can start to kind of build in and allow us to have access to some of these other things, because I think it is interesting. Like it is an interesting concept, but it's also, it shows some of the things that, like, the game I think would benefit anyway. You know, we talked about it a little bit. The producer pretend to be the producer, you know, whatever. But it's like, you know, I just think I love it. Like I want more. I want more reasons to use play on the Blue Mage. Yeah. Because it's fun. I just had a good time with it.
Cool. All right, so that's it for what we're going to cover from Hap's interview. With that, make sure to go check that out. We'll have all the links for all that stuff and when we post the show up. So next up, we want to talk just a little bit about the trip. Like, it was your first time out in Japan. So how was it, man? Like,
culture shock. pretty big culture shock. Not gonna lie. I mean, I don't go outside enough as it is. And this was on another continent,
right?
So I was just nervous the whole time. Like I was just like hands at my sides. Don't make any hand gestures. I don't know what's rude. I don't know what's what's the right thing to do. What's the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous anytime I wanted to speak Japanese because I don't know it. So
sure.
I'm like, they're gonna make fun of me. They're gonna be like, crazy gotcha.
You don't want to you don't want to say like arigato for something, and then they just like go off in Japanese, like, oh, he speaks Japanese, great.
Yeah,
like, let me tell you all of this stuff.
I tried to, because I don't even want to say konnichiwa, because if I start in Japanese, like if I start with hello, but everything else, like the basic custom things are all Japanese, then they at least know my first language is English. The expectations there. But English gets you pretty far in the Tokyo area in Japan. They all, everyone I ran into knew it well enough for me to have no issue getting around, no issue like placing an order at a restaurant or like it all worked. It worked fine for that area.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know about like if you went out to like Osaka or something, if it would work.
Oh, sure.
That's true. Yeah. What were some of the things that surprised you the most over there?
Taxis and Ubers are a luxury in Japan and are very expensive. So if you're traveling to Japan, learn the railway system. So to give you an idea, when I was there on Monday, the train ride from Shinjuku to Akihabara is 180 yen. It's about $1.63.
Okay.
That's a 20-minute train ride for $1.60. That taxi ride's $50.
Damn.
And Ubers are only Uber Blacks and Uber XLs. That's it. They're the only two ones there.
Wow.
So equally as expensive as the taxis.
Mm-hmm.
So I always take taxis from airports. It's just my habit. And then I got there and I'm like, I need to pull out more cash after this.
and you know, like I probably would have been in the same boat too if I was out there having without anybody with me the whole time. Like I would be like, train system, like just get me in a car.
It's really easy to figure out, and they have stuff in English in the trains. They have.
That's good to know.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically for the Tokyo area, like every train stop says it in Japanese and English. Like next stop is like you would expect.
Well, that's pretty nice then. Okay.
Yeah, you can also do the same thing if you go to Sweden, just FYI. Like it's like 98% of the country speaks English, and it was really easy to get around. Anyway.
Well, Tokyo in particular is used to being a tourist location, so they make sure that the English language is pretty readily available on like most things. If things aren't in English, there's enough English to get you through. Like, I don't know. I didn't think it was an issue getting around.
If they're not in English, turn around. You've got it.
I'm scared.
You've gone too far. You're outside of the boundary.
Yeah. So it was another thing was just I wanted to respect the culture. I didn't want to just look like a foreigner. Like it clearly was.
Like a
but I wanted
Paul,
to
just
respect
visiting for no reason.
Like, so one thing is I wasn't sure about public eating. You cannot walk and eat. It is like you're a disgusting animal, and everyone will give you dirty looks. As a foreigner, you might get away with it, but you're supposed to, if you want to stop, take a sip of water, eat something you just bought at a convenience store, you sit down or get yourself out of the way while you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it while you're trying to, commute. So that's a big one. No, the trains are all quiet. Dude, the taxis were just no sound at all. It was just, and by the way, for a city of 33 million, it was the quietest city I've ever been to.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's actually quite serene in a way.
Well, I think you fell asleep in one of the cabs, I think you were saying.
All of the cabs. Every single one, because I'm just like, there's nothing stimulating my senses right now. It's quiet outside. It's quiet in here. I can look at my phone, but I'm just getting tired.
No. So one of the things that you were talking about in your videos, which I thought was really cool, is meeting Japanese players. Like how was that experience for you? That's got to be kind of, you don't think of that part of the world as being somebody that necessarily consumes the content that you put out because of the language barrier, right?
Yeah. These came in handy. So a lot of Japanese players were very shy. Was something I learned very, very quickly. I had a few that just waved at me from a distance. They didn't want to they thought they were like bothering me or anything like while I was talking to other people. But I'd say the biggest thing was I knew enough English to get through hello, thank you, picture, thank you, enjoy the show. But very few people I conversed with unless I had somebody else to translate nearby. And I didn't.
Your English has improved since you've come back, by the way. Yeah.
My English has improved.
Is that you know enough English?
Picture.
Yeah. I know enough English now to get by in America. Like, and I didn't want, and again, the same thing. I don't want to try to do that exact same conversation in Japanese because it sets the tone that maybe I can, actually convert. So I don't want to say, all I know is, so I know konnichiwa, I know arigato, gomen nasai, which is also not right. I just got it wrong right there. Gomen nasai is sorry. Separately. So arigato gomen nasai. Gozaimasu is thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu, thank you very much. I also had gochisousama deshita, which is thank you for the meal. And then I think it's tenemo oshikata desu, which is it was delicious, which I had to know to tell the chefs at the restaurants whenever they're in the front. It's a very respectful thing to do. Shashin means picture. I learned that very quickly. And that's what I got by on. That's everything I got by on.
That's cool.
So unfortunately, it just meant I couldn't converse. It was funny though, because some people just knew enough English to like, again, get through. But I had quite a few people just say, I love you in English.
Aww.
That's it. Just most of them were Haru's friends who were doing it like ironically in a sense. They we're raiders and we enjoy like, raiding with you. Like, it's kind of like how I imagine Layla like trolling me or something at a convention. It's like that's how it felt like, and then they all tweeted me that I love you at the same time. I was like, tweeting. But I did have at one point I was standing outside where media was waiting to get in, and a few people started coming up to me to ask for pictures. And one woman walked up and did that. She's like, "Mr. Happy, I love you." And I'm like, oh, well, now this is a lot different than Haru's friends because now I don't want to laugh or anything like they do. But like, it happened a lot. I got a lot of I love yous while I was there. I
mean, that's their English phrase that they practiced.
Yeah, I love you.
You're just like, thank you very much.
I was pretty overwhelmed by it. It was pretty overwhelming trying to take in everything because I didn't expect to have many people trying to hang out or talk to me. One person I was talking to, they understood more English than most people. And so I don't remember what we were talking about, but the conversation eventually landed on my hair and how it was soft. And so they wanted to touch my hair like this. and the response I got to that was, yeah. What? So, some fun experiences.
So I know you were there as media, and I know for some of these events, media can't always really get around and do a lot of the activities. Were you able to like try out any of the activities?
I didn't even remotely try.
Yeah.
I would like to remind everyone, if NA Fan Fest, a lot of people said it wasn't big enough. I think it was like 6,000 or something.
Something like
this was 15,000. Funny thing is, when there's more than double the amount of people, the lines are more than twice that long. More than twice as long. Although they were so quick at getting people through everything. I actually could have gotten in line for almost everything and probably have done it in like 2 hours, probably. But I wouldn't have wanted to. By the time the 2 hours were done, I wouldn't have wanted to. I learned that at the first NA Fan Fest.
Yep. Yeah. There was a lot of cool stuff. I know even during the show and after the show, the Twitter account was posting videos of like Koji trying to do the goldfish scooping, or Soken and Yoshida on the big like chocobo bed.
They just jumped onto it.
Yeah, you can hear Yoshida getting his running start, and he just like right.
That was a good one. I like that one.
It was funny. Yeah. So, what was your favorite part of Tokyo Fan Fest, being actually out there and seeing everything and meeting with players?
It was definitely meeting players. I mean, that's kind of just why I go to Fan Fest now. I go for the news, and then I go to meet people who wouldn't otherwise have the chance. I wouldn't otherwise have the chance to converse with. So, whatever I can do to make them happy, pretty much.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And yeah, I have to do it. It's the nature of the name. Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's the big thing. I knew that I was waiting for a shitstorm when I saw the news live. When I eventually would go check my phone, I knew what I was going to come back to. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that I didn't really see much of it till after my interview. Mm-hmm. So by then, just simmer down
just a little bit.
I mean, and you know, as we've gotten away from last weekend too, I mean, it's already kind of slowly calmed down. People are realizing that this is happening. Like,
I've liked the game up till now. There's no reason to like the game less.
Right.
Exactly. Just because I didn't get exactly what I wanted, kind of thing, and just to share my feedback that I wanted at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go. We talked already a little bit about your trip to SC, but you went to the cafe, which is something I'm super jealous of. I've always wanted to do the cafe. What was your favorite thing on the menu that you had?
Oh man, you know, I've mulled over that question a lot
because I saw the video and it's like don't like eat before you watch this video, because oh my gosh, everything that you had pictures of, it's just like I want that. So like, you know, watch it over lunch or something, like just to protect yourself.
I don't know, that might not be better. You might want to wait till like literally after you're done eating, because if you eat it while you're eating, you're gonna look down and be like, ugh.
This hot dog isn't nearly as good as I thought it was before watching this.
Not as good as Hien sausage.
Yeah. How was it? Did you get a nice big mouthful of Hien sausage?
Yeah. One person ordered it. We each took a bite. We passed it around, shared it, and we were all satisfied by it.
It was a buffet style. You're saying it's kind of like family style for Hien sausage.
You're just talking about dicks again.
No, we're talking about sausage. Mashed potatoes.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Bangers and mash.
Some of us did it family. Like some of us wanted things like kind of like a meal to ourselves. Yeah. But even the meals we took to ourselves, we said, hey, if anyone wants some, like the more I can eat, the more coasters I get. So if anyone else wants,
that's true.
So the big thing, this was kind of my whole experience throughout all Japan, is the food ranged from pretty good to great. There was no bad pick. There was no pick where you're like, maybe I shouldn't have got that. And we had almost like every food item on the menu between all of us. I didn't get pictures of all of them, but there was not a bad thing that was picked. The pizza, surprisingly to me, the snob of pizza, was pretty good.
Yeah, because I mean, my wife lived in Japan for a few years, and she's always like, the pizza is not that great in Japan. Like they just
like, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, it's different.
It's different.
Pizza.
Yeah, sure.
But I'd say it's better than most of the pizza I had in LA, at the very least.
That's very easy to do.
Yeah, very easy to do. I think, and also somebody pointed out that all of those like darkened doughs are probably squid ink, because they use it in a lot of like doughs and pastas and stuff like that. So the squid ink dyeing on the dough and the cheese, it was good. I wouldn't, if you put that against a New York style pizza or anything that, no chance. But I would not call it bad.
Yeah.
That's the key point. I think my favorite thing, I don't remember exactly what it was. If I found the menu online, I could find it. It was like a beef stew with rice, and it had a giant angry Raul Bond face from like 2.5 when he cuts Lola Rita in half. Literally like that face that he makes. That on top of it, that was probably my favorite thing. That rice over beef.
They just set it down. You just have Raul eat me. Like
that's exactly what it looks like. It's made of a rice cracker. They like just put his face.
They should have had like Raban's arm, like in the right.
Oh no, but this happens before it gets cut off.
Yeah.
This is like minutes before.
It's a follow up. It's just like a single rice cracker. They just bring you after you.
Yeah.
Palate cleanser.
So palate cleansing Robin's arm rice cracker. There we go.
But if you really want to farm coasters, you got to farm drinks. If you want to grind coasters, you got to order.
I'm waiting for that coaster grinding guide.
Actually, you actually do need to think very carefully about which drinks you get, because some of them are really alcoholic. Yeah. Some of them aren't that alcoholic. Some of them aren't alcoholic at all, but have a ton of sugar. Some of them have milk, so you don't want to order a ton of those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually do, if you want to get through, you actually kind of need to consider which drinks you're ordering.
Challenge accepted. I will drink all of them.
A lot of the drinks also come with little props that you can also take out. The only one I remembered to take was the samurai sword, and as Fusion pointed out, It has no raid utility because it's not a straw. It was just in the drink, no straw, no utility. And I'd like to point out, almost every other drink came with 2 straws except the samurai drink.
That's funny. Yeah, gosh, I remember that because I woke up in like the middle of the night. I just, for whatever reason, like, like I think he's at the cafe today. Like, let's see if he's tweeting or anything. And you tweet out this thing about the, like, I thought the samurai sword was a straw, and so I just replied with, it has no utility. And I'm glad you've gotten so much mileage out of that.
It was very, very, very good. Both the drink and the joke.
There you go.
It's like a ginger mixed with like a lemon soda or something like that.
Okay.
It's pretty. That was actually one of my favorite drinks. I'd say the Ravana was the best one. It has like little like boba in it, but like it's not like tapioca boba. I don't know what it was. It was like a bead of some kind. And then it was an alcoholic beverage that was quite delicious, like blueberry liqueur and something else in there. It was pretty good. They're all very sugary though, so if you have a low sugar tolerance, be very careful.
Yeah.
just get Harsh Fonts tea.
There we go. Just get like 10 orders of Harsh Fonts tea.
Yeah, it's got a mug, like the silver mug from the game, and then it's got a honey tea in there.
But it's not cocoa?
Yeah, like they missed that.
It should be.
I thought it was going to be coffee, but I couldn't read the menu, so I was like, this is tea.
You're like, that looks good. Order it. They bring it out. Is this one?
Listen, I got a coaster. It doesn't matter. All I know is
you get hot cocoa with one marshmallow that has printed the shield, like or the logo, like you put it right on top.
Does the marshmallow have a hole through the middle?
You could add it. Maybe they wouldn't, but you could.
Can you just like imagine being back in the kitchen for that? They just have like a drawer that's like full of like, okay, these are the Bahamut rice crackers, these are the Titan seaweeds. Here's the little metal thing to stamp the hole in Harshifon's marshmallow shield.
About this now. No, they'd have to have like a mixer, a stirrer. It's like a lightning bolt or something. So strap it through the marshmallow shield. Yeah.
Marshmallow. I like where this is going.
So you got in the video that you had, you showed all the coasters off that you got. What was your favorite coaster? I'm curious.
The Omega coaster. I wanted that Omega coaster.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was really happy to take. They let me pick the job coasters. Blue Mage was on that list. I was pretty glad to get the Blue Mage coaster because that hasn't been there that long.
Right.
Now I'm curious. Is the Blue Mage coaster limited in any way? Can you still set drinks on it? Like
it was actually the biggest coaster on the list of coasters. Probably because it was the newest one. So it was the least limited coaster.
Or they're like Blue Mage, please take these. We have several million. We need to get
now. I gotta go
back
to Dancer and Gunbreaker.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Awesome. All right. I think that, gosh, we probably covered just about everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or mention about your trip out there?
There is, but it's something I did while I was out there, and I don't think it's been posted yet. Because I'm not the one who's going to be posting the thing that I did while I was out there. It's for something. It's for somebody else. Gotcha. And it's something that was awesome to do, but I don't want to reveal it. So just know there's something I did while I was out there that within the next week or so, you guys will probably see.
And as long as it doesn't cause the third apocalypse, then everything will be fine.
That will be fine. Don't worry. It will not cause that. I know exactly what's being referenced. Don't worry. That didn't happen.
Are you sure?
I am 100% sure.
Next week we all wake up and it's just like this new crazy Japanese commercial with Mr. Happy.
I would love to do that. I would love to be in a Japanese commercial. I love Japanese.
Like a Double Dare style course first.
I'm down.
It's so Japan to me.
Yeah, I'm down. So if someone contacts me tomorrow and says, "Hey, you want to do?" I'll be like, "I'm down." I go to the Ortea Cafe while I'm there.
There you go.
Should really go to a different. They have the Square Enix Cafe in like right next to Akihabara Station too, right next to the Gundam one.
Because they have Akihabara, they have Osaka. I can't remember. I think Osaka is Maelstrom themed.
No, it's
Ulda. They had all three at one point, and I can't remember where they all were, but they did at one point have all three. There's Artnia. There was at some point a Dragon Quest cafe. I don't know if that's still up and running wherever that was.
I don't know. I know the Square Enix cafe right now is Kingdom Hearts themed. If you were to go,
yeah, that one they rotate with whatever the newest game is. So one of these days, I really want to get out there and check out all that stuff.
I want to go back already.
Let's go as a whole team.
Yeah. There we go. Live from Tokyo, Aetheryte Radio.
It's a bucket list.
Speaking of which, my first hotel, which was super small, had good internet. My second one, which is a great room, had terrible internet.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So be careful if that's the plan, because you're gonna either be prepared to spend a lot on a Wi-Fi spot, or look at your hotels in advance to see what their internet's like. It took me 2 hours to upload my live letter overview in the second hotel.
Oh,
Wow.
That's rough.
It's rough. I'm not going to be picky, though, because they had friggin' Cube sushi room service. So,
like,
nice.
Oh, gosh. Just, like, seriously, all the food pictures that you were posting, man. It's just like, oh.
I don't even think I posted them all.
Yeah. I would just, like, wake up and be like, all right, let's see. All those eggs look so good.
Damn right.
Yeah. But yeah, and again too, Haps posted videos of all this stuff too over on his YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen them yet, go check them out. They're really interesting. And again, make sure you have some food ready to eat during or right after that cafe video, because oh man, there's so many good shots.
It's so sad.
It looks so good. I just wanted to reach out and just grab some of that.
Not quite that future yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go back to Tokyo Game Show. Tokyo Game Show and Tokyo Fan Fest are actually in the exact same location.
Yeah. And I remember, when I heard that too, I was like, oh my God, how big is this? And it's like 15,000 people. I'm just like, holy crap.
That was only 3 of the 8 halls too.
Yeah.
There's 8 halls in there. That's what they use for Tokyo.
Yeah.
And that's got to be
50,
rough, like from the NA
grand.
side of things, right? Because I mean, we all remember the issue about tickets and not enough room for people and stuff. And then they're like, all right, Tokyo Fan Fest is literally like double the size of like NA and EU combined. Like,
EU was only 4,500, I think.
Do you think that's just either a logistics thing or just underestimating the demand? I mean, because 14 is pretty dang big in the NA area.
It's probably both. It's a matter of where they want to do it. Well, for NA especially, right? It's okay.
Logistics regardless. Like
yeah. They got to find out, okay, how many people do we want, and then what venues are able to hold that capacity.
Hold us for that time period, which they were trying to
want, right? So. It's rough, because I would, and like Hap said in his video, I would love to see NA be a bigger event with like an Eorzea cafe in it. Like that would be so cool. Like,
dude, I got 2 coasters because somebody just left them somewhere.
That. It's just
the
like,
fool.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just cost or they underestimate the demand, because the Las Vegas Convention Center is right there. It's not the best convention center in the world, but it's right there.
So that weekend there was a marijuana convention taking place there. So we can compete with that.
Yeah. Just combine them. It'll be fine.
So it'll be interesting to see what it'll be.
Yo, you guys don't believe this. Oh my God.
I'm in something called Blue Mage. This is not the job. This is the role. It'll be interesting to see what happens with with Vegas next time around, because we've gone from like one place to Paris back, and I can't even remember the name of the hotel. But it's like okay, is that. I like it. I think I'm really hopeful. And
it won't be at the Rio again, because the Rio is getting torn down.
Right. Yep. That won't even be there anymore. So
good.
On. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's gonna be so interesting to see. Like, I'm really excited about Shadowbringers, but also just to think 2020 next Fan Fest, like how epic that milestone will be. Over 10 years since the original. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before we close out the show, we did have some emails and tweets sent over our way this past week, so we want to go and read some of those. So first off, we have an email right here from Jonathan Denton from Cactar. He says, let me start off by saying I'm a big fan of the show. I listen to the audio version, and I don't typically have a means of checking out most people's Twitch streams, so I'm not really a part of the communities and such. I'm on PS4, adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
That being said, I started playing 14 on a whim somewhere between patch 3.4 and 3.5. I started playing in Burnout before ARR, and I've kind of done that once a year since. I've never been playing what's relevant in the game until now. I finally beat Stormblood a few weeks ago, and I've been obsessed ever since. I was actually listening to the show in State of the Realm and listening to you guys talk about relevant content. And I mean, I've put 31 days worth of playtime into 14 without ever really being caught up on story patches, and I only have 2 jobs up to 70 as well. So I wanted to know if you guys still had any old game features that really captivated you, or if you feel like you guys feel that way about something looking back. I've basically just been addicted to old 24-man raids and irrelevant mount farming for most of the time that I put in. I'm just now starting to waste my life in Eureka. I enjoy it, and I enjoy what I've been doing, but I've never really fully leveled a crafter or gatherer or branched out from the standard dungeons, raids, and trials. So I'm just kind of curious what legacy players might still be into or were into.
Anytime I get a dungeon that I haven't seen in a year, it is the most thrilling experience.
It's like, oh, hey, this was a thing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, you then appreciate it. Like I haven't seen this over and over again. It's a tough question. Go ahead, Matt.
To continue that point, it's why I kind of, as much as I'm okay with the relic being tied to Eureka, I do miss the old way, specifically because I liked just seeing which dungeon I got in every roulette every day, and then go off and farm something else.
You asked him about that, and he talked about how like some of the devs were tired of kind of the old way, and it's like I always just kind of wish they would let you kind of choose and make the like old way like less efficient. Eureka, it's this highlight content. It's the most efficient way and the fastest way to do it. But you get 25% XP or light or whatever if you do your roulette or you do these like just something so it's that it's not completely cut out. Because like one of the things we were talking with Larry's are about was like he's like we've all kind of shifted here, but back when the relic used to be out, like you would see more activity going around the world, and it kind of felt like a little bit barren, this expansion. And you asked him about it, and I was like, I hope he just connect the dots, like and do like a function like /50%. Go.
Right. Yeah. To me, I agree with that because like I've been really busy outside of the game, and like Eureka, there's just no time to even start that. But roulettes, yeah, whatever. I could do a couple of roulettes. That's fine. Eureka, I'm like, I got to get in. I got to figure out what I'm going to do, especially because I'm behind. I got to, the grinding is the same. It's just trying to get the logistics of it. Sucks. I hate it.
Eureka, if you haven't done it, it's very intimidating because all you ever hear is like, yeah, Nemos was fun. Pagos is terrible. Pagos is the worst thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, oh, so maybe I don't want to do this content.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, thank you.
It wasn't that bad.
I mean, it was. It's not that bad anymore.
Yeah,
I ran into the problem. We've beaten the horse to death, but it's that I got in. All my friends were either in Pagos or Pyros, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll check it out. And they're like, well, we can't technically help you. We could kind of follow you around. And it's like, or we could go do this trial or do this raid where we can all kind of get something out of it. And that's what we defaulted to. And so it's like I'm hopeful for the future because the OSHP's already addressed the technical issues as to why some of the things are the way they are and how they're hoping to correct it in the future. And the way I kind of fall down to it, kind of in light of his question, what am I as a legacy player doing? I'm not investing in Eureka because, maybe Happy knows more, and because maybe I missed something, but unless E-level and all that stuff carries into the next expansion, which I'm assuming it won't.
Good luck. Yeah,
right, exactly. Because it doesn't. I'm not like I'm either investing in a piece of glamour, or I can invest in a crafter and a gatherer, which actually has, I think, a better impact on just my day-to-day.
And the biggest issue too with Eureka is it really didn't invest in itself until you're farming stuff for elemental bonus gear in not even logograms, but like the actual gear payoff. You didn't even get that until like the end when it doesn't matter anymore. It's like they forgot, oh hey, maybe we should add some kind of gear incentive to this series, like we said we would. So
but yeah, like I like the old content. I've always wished that there was a way we could play it at our current level. And I get there's a lot in that question to unpack. But like I like, honestly, like anytime I get to go back, and the Wondrous Tales I thought was really refreshing. I'm really interested to see what Blue Mage does because it does limit you to the 50 stuff, which is fine. But like, yeah, like it'd be kind of neat to be able to kind of experience these other things in a different way. Yeah,
I
crafting and gathering. That's what I'm focused on. Just for
I want Hamlet. I missed Hamlet.
Oh yeah, Hamlet.
Let's end the show on that because I don't talk about Hamlet.
Damn. Shut down.
I worked hard to get my minor AF helm. That was all that existed. There wasn't any other AF body pieces. Just the helmet. That was it.
The little light.
That's great. What's not?
Yeah, I mean, I am technically a legacy player and also not, because I played it and I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to play this anymore after the first month. I just literally gave my account to my girlfriend and she played it the rest of the time. That's
the terms of service.
That's fine. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay. She took it over. It's all right. We changed everything. But it's like, I don't have anything from 1.0 that I remember or care about. Really, I know that's fine. But things like Besieged, Hamlet, maybe not that much, but what was that? Salvage? Like these ideas that we've had, I just like them. I want more of that sort of content.
Yeah.
That's really it.
Right.
I just remember
an offshoot.
not working.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All I remember. 750 people, nothing works.
That's true.
So sort of an offshoot from that. I miss leveling in dungeons. Like most people just head straight to Deep Dungeon or Heaven on High.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, that's a very quick, efficient way to level. But you could argue people don't learn their jobs that way.
No,
Those are actually faster than those, but queue times.
Which
it's all about them queue
times.
It's all about those queue times.
Yeah.
Dungeons are faster.
I mean, I include that in the efficiency. Like,
Well, that's why
I prefer dungeons.
1 to 50 or 20 to 55 for jobs now, because squadrons are faster if you have, especially with the Aetheryte earrings.
It kills my brain, man. It puts me to sleep. I'm in the taxi in Japan, falling asleep.
My squadron's so dumb, I can't fall asleep or they're dead.
Fair.
There is that.
Good luck.
I really like leveling in dungeons because I like seeing the dungeons. I like doing all the little mechanics, keeps my brain awake, and you also get the gear from it. If you just look directly into Heaven on High, you don't get it.
I've been leveling my red mage up a little bit, and I'm like 66, I think now. And I've been doing. I'll do dungeons, but then I'll also, while I'm waiting for those, I'll do the daily hunt stuff because those actually give you a lot of XP.
Yeah, daily hunt will feed you really well.
Yeah,
and give you free teleports.
Yeah, and I mean, do that while you're in queue, and you're good. Like you don't have to worry about any kind of downtime or anything like that. Like
Beastman quests as well.
Yeah.
Right at an expansion launch, though, the hunts are there, but like Beast Tribe quests, some of the options aren't prevalent or available. Right.
That would be my biggest recommendation right now for people that are kind of like, they're kind of done, or they're maybe like, all right, now like before 5.0, I'm gonna level my crafters, level my gatherers, whatever. Do your Namazu dailies. Like those add up quick.
Yeah.
Like, do your special delivery quests each week. Like if you just like stay on those until the expansion, like you'll get all your stuff leveled up, no problem.
My problem with those is I also tend to have all of my crafters up to 70 before they come out. So it makes them really easy to get through. But it's like, oh well, this would have been useful.
Yeah. All right. Our next tweet here comes from Chris Rohrbach. Says, I couldn't disagree more about gender-locked races. What's the big deal when you really think about it? I like how they're all female and male races. It's unique and gives variety. The lore backs it too for the most part, so what's the problem? I love the show, but I disagree 100% that the gender-locked races are a step backwards. If anything, it's a step forward. Not everything needs to be co-ed, for the lack of better words. Why must everything in life nowadays be equal? Why can't things be different to fit the lore? And we talked about this last week. They don't need to necessarily fit the lore. The lore should fit what the game needs. Square makes the lore. If they wanted the lore to, if they wanted male Vera, they could adjust the lore to do that. It's not the lore dictating it. It's them dictating the lore dictating that.
Yeah. I get where they're coming from because it's kind of interesting to have that kind of, this is different than everything else. That's cool. But I don't really think that's why they did it. Like that had no bearing on it in any way, shape, or form. I don't think.
Time, money, resource, project management. 101. That it's like really where this comes from.
That's all.
And the math that we can't equate, because if anybody hasn't ever like done what they're doing, hey, how many pieces of gear do we have? How many of this do we have? Like, how do the animations look? How does all that and then we have a team of certain people that have to go through that. And so you look at like what's, you know, the project cost, like it's okay, it's going to take this much work, this many human hours. God forbid something come up. That, you know, and if anybody here, like I've never worked in a perfect project situation where like nothing changes in the middle of it, where it's like, hey guys, I know you're working on this. Go attack this for a little bit because there's a bug and we have to find it, you know? And so it's like all of it makes sense. And what I like about this is that the approach was, from a lore perspective, is that in 12, the VR have a female only. Like, how do we respect that concept? And then, just like you guys said, yeah, they dictate the lore. Like, that's where I think, and I hope that if they ever do change this, that it's some action that we, the players, have had in the game.
Sure.
And like, to reference like another game, like in Anthem, they released like an update where it says, hey, everybody has 20% more boosters. And that's frustrating because why didn't you give me a reason to do that? Why didn't my actions then dictate what you wanted to change? And
also,
same thing,
why didn't that work?
Yeah. But it's that. But like when you give me, like, don't give me something, let me earn that thing. And in this case, like if they're going to do it at some point based off of feedback, let our story as we work through Shadowbringers, and let's say it was 6.0 or 7.0, let us have some kind of make a quest around it. Make it to where we feel like we've had part and ownership. And they've done that before. And we've seen that as the game has progressed. Like it feels like because we did this, hey, this unlocks, and we're seeing it again already in Shadowbringers by the crafting and gathering to unlock the housing of Ishgard.
Yeah,
you know, so it's like that's what I think adds that like, yeah, it's when you know there's the illusion of it, right? But it's still that, you know, you can kind of buy in that like my character helped contribute to this, and thus this happened, and everybody gets to take part in it.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, and we'll have a little bit. I mean, there's going to be more things too with Shadowbringers as well. That's discussed in one of those Tokyo FanFest Q&As, and we'll talk about that next week because there's a lot of stuff in there that I think we can spend a lot of time on. We have another tweet, and as well, you know, I saw somebody in the chat. If you guys in the chat have questions, throw them up right now, and we'll pick a few if you guys have them, and we'll go over them right after this one here. This one comes from AJR30. Says, I wanted to comment about the gender lock lore topic. It's a hot topic. You said the dev team makes the lore and that they could make it male VR friendly, which is true, but then why are you so worried about them writing lore to make Nier fit? Personally, I'm excited for Nier, Vera, and Hrothgar, even if there are some aspects that aren't ideal. Ideally, I wish we get both races and both genders, but maybe that'll come later.
These questions are making me wonder if you're listening to everybody on the podcast.
Correct. So we did talk about this last week, and what I said is so much of Return to Evil East was already ingrained into the lore of 14. We already had things like you know, mentions of the Zodiac Braves. We had you know, we knew like Robin Oster and Dalmasca like already existed in the world, and so to build on that is easy. But to like be like, okay, what's a Yorha? We have no idea what a Yorha is. We don't have lifelike androids in Eorzea. We have clones. Anyway. We have clones, but we don't have
also freaking Mega, and it's like, and he came from another planet. Well, yeah, and we're going dimension hopping.
right. And I mean, for all we know, Yorha takes place on the first. We don't know. We have no idea. But it has significantly less of a foundation, right, for that source material in 14 than things like Return to Evil East did. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they won't make it work. Obviously, they have to make it work.
Yeah, but it's gonna work.
Right. So
the secret 27th ending of Nier.
Oh, geez.
That's what New Game Plus is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy. All right, one question here. We'll take this from the chat from Midwest Giant. How much of a mistake did I miss by skipping the story and not paying attention? I'm having trouble finding a character and job that I'm falling in love with. Should I start a new character and slowly play through the story?
New Game Plus is on its way. Like, I would wait.
Yeah,
just wait.
Or just watch the book.
I mean, the story offers a lot of stuff. If you're trying to find enjoyment of a job from story, there are the story quests, like once when you're doing those, don't skip those. Maybe that's a quicker way to that, or go back. You can always go back and rewatch most of the cutscenes. Obviously there's gonna be stuff in there like just little text dialogue or battles like within quests or whatever that you won't be able to repeat right now, But with 5.0, they're going to add a new game plus, so you can go back and redo everything. So
don't start again. Holy God!
Do not make another.
That's a lot.
It's like, I mean, do it if you want to, but it's like I would if you're sitting here like, I mean, wait a couple of weeks, in 13 weeks ish, that's when the expansion drops. If you're looking for something to do, by all means do whatever. But in 13 weeks, new game, we don't know how New Game Plus is going to work. I mean, we've been told, and so it's kind of, it could be something that allows you to do that on your character and maybe kind of fall in love with it while at the same time experiencing the game in a different way. So
right,
I'm curious what jobs you have played.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, what kind of?
If you're still there, like what kind of jobs are you looking at? What are you are you looking at? Tank, healer, DPS? Is there a weapon you're drawn to? Like, I've always liked pole arms. Like what kind of things are you more like drawn to, I guess?
Yeah, it's one of those things too, because a lot of the jobs lore and quests are kind of throwaway. I mean, at the very beginning, at the very least, like at the beginning, it's like, I don't care. Yeah, there's a guy with a pole arm that taught me how to do this. Cool, whatever. They kind of really open up past you getting the job theoretically. So
right. USMC Gamer says Dragoon is best job in story. I mean, it's pretty good.
I don't want to encourage the edgelords, but the story for Dark Knight is actually excellent.
Dark Knight is also really good. Yeah. Okay, so they say they've played Astrologian, White Mage, and now Warrior. I'm looking for something that's easy to learn, fun to play, and keep playing, and can out DPS my friends easily. Okay.
If your friends aren't good, then any of the ones you just named will probably
exactly.
And I think part of that too is it really, because there's a lot of different roles, and the jobs play differently, but the roles more or less are the same kind of like play style, right? So
yeah,
if you're looking at healer, start with White Mage, work your way up with White Mage, see how you're liking that, and then go into these other jobs. Or if you're wanting to do like a tank, start with something like Paladin to kind of ease you into the idea of the role. For DPS,
I would say Warrior. Warrior's fun.
I'd vote Summoner Scholar, because you get a healer and a DPS, and you can kind of play around with it. Especially if you've done Astrologian White Mage
too. Yeah, if you're not sure about stuff, you kind of get a 2-for-1 if you do.
It's the cheapest jump potion to buy too if you ended up decided to go that way.
And you mentioned that those are on sale right now as well. 20-30% off, something like that, on jump potions up until the expansion launches. So. And that's job and story. So if you want to have that shortcut, you can do that. I mean, obviously, one concern I've brought up about the new jobs is starting at 60. And I say this as a person that has dabbled briefly in tanking, and the last time my duty popped like a tank thing, like people left like after the first pull because apparently I was that bad. So like it's that idea of being able to learn a role, and I don't think necessarily maybe having people jump in at 60 is a good idea for that. But
I thought 50 felt right. Like
30 wasn't great even going on.
No, and there are ways to do that. Like when I after Paris, I'm like, okay, I want to at least try Gunbreaker. So what do I do? I already have my Paladin at 50, but I make sure my Paladin's geared up. I do squadron missions. I go into dungeons with just NPCs. I control that, see how I can do polls and manage that. I mean, there's ways to kind of learn, lean into the role and kind of figure things out and what you like. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So I mean,
that being courteous to the community.
Yeah, I mean, you unlock all of them. Just go through it, unlock as many as you can at the level that you're at. There's Palace of the Dead eventually, where you can kind of see how they track, but not really, because you're not really doing rotations and things like that. But it's something that can help too.
Yeah. All right, we'll do this as our last question here from Zoella. On the most recent story duty, a lot of healers had to switch to DPS. Mike is gonna love this one. I know he's had.
Oh, I already read it. I knew you.
Yeah, on the most recent story duty, a lot of healers had to switch to DPS because the DPS check was tight for healers. So how do we feel about healers needing to switch to DPS to pass the story duty? Even healers that did pass it were saying it was really close.
Okay, I'm gonna proceed what I'm gonna say with a disclaimer.
I think I
if your item level is very low,
Uh-huh.
I kind of get it. But you just don't know how to DPS.
Yeah, that's really
I'm just gonna say it. Then anyone who's not passing, they better be like insanely low item level. Because otherwise you have no excuse. It has nothing to do with why. I've seen people say like I'm an item level 387 bard and I couldn't beat the DPS. I'm like,
yeah.
How?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
How?
Yeah.
I beat it on my first try as a bard. I don't remember what item level I am, but I'm in the current raid tier, so it's close to the top. I accidentally used second wind at the very start of the fight, so I was down a second wind. I got this close to death at one point, but did not die.
Yeah.
Without a complete cooldown of healing.
Yeah.
Like I get why healers think, oh, we do less DPS than the DPS. No, listen. If you're not beating the DPS check on Xenos on the swords, you are playing poorly. Or your item level's crazy low.
Yes,
I will respect that some people may be going in with way below an item level that somebody else is going in with.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a thing to note about also kind of having seen the fight, because if you especially have a lot of like burst that's on a kind of a bigger cooldown, and you burst and then you're like, oh, I didn't know the sword phase existed, and then you're like, well, I can't. I'm struggling.
If that's really an issue, like after a few times doing the fight, hopefully, right, you have the ability to say, okay, these are the kind of phases of the fight. This is when I need to save this ability, or this is how I need to move to not get hit, so I don't need healing. Right. Like there's, it shouldn't be too hard. And in that respect too, we talked about item level. You can get twice as many Alec and Tomestones of Genesis now. Just jump into content, get tomes, gear up, run, make sure you're running Orbone for your gear. Like, it shouldn't be too hard to gear up. And if that's where the biggest issue is for you. For that content.
One of the biggest, I don't know, pro tip, I don't know what to call it, about DPS in general is to map out the fight. Know what's coming up. Like, if you know what's coming up and I mean, we're talking about healer, but if you know your rotation, you can kind of map them up, make this in your head, and nothing is difficult once you can do that. Once you get the map and this is going to happen, I'll do this. When that happens, I'll do this.
When you get into that,
knowledge is power. Just
once you kind of get in, I mean, and again, like we are talking about just like a little phase duty fight. Like it's not like a huge fight or anything. But like I can remember doing, and I never really do a lot of like extreme farms, but I can remember doing a lot of Shiva extreme farms when that came out, and I had my rotation down so like on lock that like once the AoE circles would stop, they'd go around, like I would be able to go in, dodge that, and then like elusive jump back. Like the timings were all perfect, and it was like the greatest feeling in the world when I had that down like that.
You have become the machine,
right? Exactly.
But for something like this, if you end up wiping a couple times, by then hopefully you have kind of a better idea of how the fight works. And
I actually just realized the tiny HP was when I was Tien, not myself.
It's funny you mentioned that because my wife,
if you're failing that part,
hit that second win when she started that. That's funny. And we'll talk a little bit about that next week as well. Our hands-on impressions. There's not really we can't really do a spoiler cast, as there's not really a lot to talk about. But we'll talk about that next week.
Half a quest and that was it.
Some kind of cutscene, some kind of like you're just like mashing 2 or 3 for like 10 minutes, and
1 and 2, but
I was like trying to think of like where were they mapped at it. It was anyway. Next week we'll talk about that next week, and we'll talk about the big Q&A that we have up on the website right now, talking about some of the questions from the Tokyo Fan Fest. Lots of really interesting stuff in there. There's some lore bits in there for people that are interested in that. So check that out, and we'll be back here next Saturday at noon Pacific. Want to give a big thank you to Mr. Happy for joining us. Glad you enjoyed yourself out at FanFest and the cafe and all that stuff. Your interview was great. It really it was awesome.
Thanks, man.
Glad, if anything, you got a little samurai sword to play around with now.
Yes.
Yeah, I can play as Hien.
Yeah.
Looks more like I'm trying to Expelliarmus or something.
You know, that alone just looks more exciting than the fight, at least. So
it's like up, that's down, up, down, left, right, A, B,
there you go.
There you
go. All right, we'll do our outro here, and then we'll let Happy. We'll let you let people know where they can find you. If you guys want to email us, aetheryteradio@gamerscape.com. You can tweet at us at aetheryteradio. You can also find us as Gamerscape on Twitter and Facebook and Discord, discord.gg/Gamerscape. We now have an Aetheryte Radio channel, so if you guys want to talk to us about the show directly, you can use that as well. Mr. Happy, where can everybody find you?
You can find me, Mr. Happy1227, on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram sometimes. And I don't know. I don't really have much else to add to that, I guess. Other than I hope you enjoyed the content.
Yes, go check it out. It really is a really cool look at stuff over there from the point of somebody that hasn't been over there before and is a huge fan of the 14 and stuff. I found it awesome. So make sure to check it out.
Yeah,
we will have links up on the website too when we post this episode, so make sure to go check that out. And that is going to do it for this episode of Aetheryte Radio. Thanks for everybody for tuning in and chat. And again, thanks to Mr. Happy for being here, and we will see you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Hey.